Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards embracing your worthiness and creating extraordinary success? I am your host, Allison Lacusier, a certified professional coach, a professional speaker, and a female founder. As a passionate advocate for women's empowerment, I've dedicated my career to helping individuals like you unlock their true potential, cultivate unwavering confidence, and live a life aligned with their deepest desires. With years of experience in the coaching industry, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible transformation that occurs when we tap into our worthiness and step into our power. Throughout this podcast, I'll be your guide, sharing insights, tools, and strategies to help you navigate the path towards unshakable self-confidence and fulfillment. Drawing from my own journey as a successful business owner, I'll provide you with practical advice, actionable steps, and thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders. From overcoming self-doubt to setting and achieving audacious goals, we'll explore a wide range of topics designed to empower you to embrace your worthiness in every step of your life. Through these engaging interviews and solo episodes, I'll share my experiences, lessons learned, and wisdom gained from our remarkable guests who have achieved remarkable success in their respective fields. So if you're ready to leave self-doubt behind, step into your authenticity, and thrive as the empowered woman that you are, then this podcast is for you. It's time to claim your worth, align with your purpose, and manifest the success you desire. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this empowering adventure. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Clearly Worthy podcast. I have Anne Rice with me today for this interview, and we are in for a treat because the first time I met Anne, I'm going to say this, it's my podcast. I'm allowed to kind of swear. She's a badass. And it was a conversation that I had with her and my brother, and I just sat back and I listened to them talking all about neurobiology, neuroscience, Alzheimer's. And it really made me excited to be able to interview her on this podcast today to talk about a woman in science, a female entrepreneur, a female speaker, and someone that has paved the way in a very important topic on Alzheimer's disease, oral systemic health, biodirectional care, integration of improving outcomes. She has done so much. And so I cannot wait to dig into this podcast today. Welcome, Anne. Great to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is when we did meet and your brother was involved in that. And he was so incredibly smart and talking about what I love about brain health. That was a very fun day. It was great.
I literally just sat back and listened because you guys just went in, and I was so excited that you guys were just having this amazing conversation and just how much you have been able to help really create change in our industry. So I would love for you to tell our listeners, our audience, or anyone that might not have known you or had the opportunity to hear you speak or look at your work, just tell us a little bit about you and what you're excited to be working on in the industry today.
I'm a dental hygienist and I was licensed in 1989. So as we all know, there is an ebb and flow in a career. You know, you may get to high points and in between points. And I worked for some great practices. My first job was with a mover and shaker dentist who was on the board. He was an international speaker. And I guess there's something I took from him that I didn't really realize probably at the time about doing things. He always was involved in product development and so many different areas. I didn't realize it at the time. I ended up becoming a personal assistant. My life was changing. My husband and I moved to another state. So dentistry, who do I work for? What do I do? And during an ebb, I guess we would say, I started to get into oral systemic health. All of these relationships, I found it very interesting and it kind of reignited. I took some continuing education. Life, there were some cognitive issues happening in my family. And then I started to kind of put this relationship together between oral health and brain health. I ran into a paper, the first methods paper by Dr. Richard Isaacson. And it was really the play-by-play, how do you prevent Alzheimer's disease? So he was doing it at Weill Cornell Alzheimer's and Prevention Clinic. And it was kind of a step-by-step thing. And in there, it said, sustaining good oral hygiene. And so that was Jerry McGuire. You had me at hello. And I was like, let's look at this. And what I realized in that was lots of different things that we do in the operatory, from the surveillance of blood pressure, and we're dealing with diabetes. Some of us are doing A1C testing, sleep, evaluating sleep, and all of these things reduce the risk of cognitive decline. And through a lot of different turns of events that we may get into, one thing leads to another. And lo and behold, my boss now is Dr. Richard Isaacson, who I read in that paper. And I'm thrilled to be hopefully learning more about the oral microbiome. It is, as they like to say, in the embryonic stages of understanding. There's so many things that we need to understand. I hope that I get to be involved in research, what we're doing on the front lines. Is it really making a difference, and how that's affecting cognitive decline? So I would have never thought that science and all of this would trip my trigger. I was pretty shallow, probably in my younger years, but now it is what I love every morning, to read the studies and to get more information. In that, in turn, to share that with people. You can't keep up with everything that's out there. No one could. And I hope that when I speak, I can distill down current evidence and present that to attendees that want to make a difference.
Wow. 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 I got goosebumps when you said, like, my current boss today is Dr. Isaacson.
Yeah,
That is just,
it's crazy.
that is like, if you want to get into this, like, manifestation, goal creation, visioning, like all of that stuff where you're like, okay, this is something that's important to me. This is something that I'm really interested in. And then you just, like, bit by bit create this future where all of a sudden you're like, that's your boss
Yeah,
and you're working with him.
I would love to say that I wrote it on a board that's behind me. And it was, and I think that's the crux of this. It was not that. You don't know. You have no idea opportunities that get put in front of you. And you and I talked a little bit about this. It's about taking a risk and really putting yourself out there. Being naive is really helpful sometimes, because you don't know, right? You don't know that, are you going to fail, or what are the things that are going to happen? And I had crazy turn of events of opportunity. Somebody heard me on a educational platform, reached out to me on LinkedIn. That led to another event where I was on a panel discussion. That led to an introduction of this other doctor, dentist, that introduced me to somebody at the NIH. And she asked me to write for a journal in Frontiers. I was out of my element in every way, shape, or form. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea, but yay, yes, okay, I'll try it. I did. There were tears, there were struggles. It wasn't simple for me, but it got published. Had I not taken that opportunity, there's a lot of intersections, you don't left or right and all of that. And had I not done that, it wouldn't have gotten published. And Dr. Isaacson actually read it. And then he approached me and said,
Wow.
I want you on our team. I believe in what you're talking about. And he had cases where that's where he thought the problems were, some of them were coming from. They couldn't get some inflammatory markers down, so on and so forth. And that's where it's led to. So originally I was at Weill Cornell, and then we went to Florida Atlantic, and now we're at the Atria Institute in New York. And then he sees patients as well. So I'm not a skilled writing was not my scene. Now I do write a column for a magazine, and I write for another magazine. It takes a lot of effort. And I think as I write, and where the science comes in, is that I don't know the information. I'm going to assume somebody else doesn't either. So I need to research it and be able to present it in a way that they can understand, because I didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to say that I wrote it on a vision board, but it is, if something drops in your lap, you got to do it. You have to.
I want to dissect, like, that whole scenario and pathway, because in that moment when you were asked to do something that was like completely outside of your comfort zone, not something that you felt like was really in your skill set and your wheelhouse, like you've not done this before, like you could have said no. And I think that in the world, in the reality, like many people would have, but you
Yeah.
didn't. And so what went through your mind in that moment to say like, no, yes, I'm going to do this, even though I don't feel like I'm prepared. I don't feel like I'm maybe qualified to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Um, Being a little bit naive, and to circle back to that, I think I was raised in an atmosphere that mistakes don't just happen. It's kind of poor planning. So I think as women, and additionally, perfection is kind of part in our DNA. We don't want to do it unless it's going to be great. It's going to be
Mhm.
perfect. I struggle with this all the time in every presentation. I just
Mhm.
recorded one this morning and was beating myself up that it wasn't perfect. Nothing is. So
Mhm.
you have to get past that. I think age helped me. I wish I would have been like this at 30. Um, okay, I'll try it. I mean, and I don't know that I realized the gravity of it. Less thinking, less analysis. I am clearly an analysis paralysis individual where I'm going to, and then nothing happens. So there is a point that you just go, okay, let's just try it. I don't know. I knew that nobody was going to know. I kept it private. There were very few people that knew what I was doing. So I figured if I failed, nobody's going to know about it. Right. I
Mhm.
mean, it just, she's going to be upset with me, Dr. Summerman, or disappointed, but never understanding where it would go. But the other part of that is the passion that I had, which I think directs us in decisions that we make. What that article was about was our value as, and I said dentistry, I meant primarily dental hygienists or dental therapists, our value in changing, in this case, Alzheimer's disease, changing that trajectory. I, at my core, believe that to this day, and that no one knows what we do in that room. Nobody knows the value of it. We have other physicians and even even in our own industry, right? And so I laid it out. Whoever's going to take it for what they are. They only gave me 3,000 words. If you know me, that's not quite enough. But I wanted to lay out to the world and to show our industry is really capable. We need to be really valued. All the things that happen in there, this was as related to reducing risk of cognitive decline. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I would love to say that there is maybe it was driven by passion. Maybe that's what it is. If you really feel it, and this was just an avenue that I could have used it. And also not thinking so much, for
Yeah.
heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
You
Oh.
can't, because you can come up with 1,000 reasons why this will not work.
Mhm.
I mean, that's easy. This
Mhm.
podcast, I can come up with a million reasons how this is going to fall flat.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that doesn't do any good.
Mhm.
So
100%.
I think age has helped me in that, but I sure wish I would have known some of this when I was young, for sure.
100%. 100%. And I love that you said like driven by passion. I'm just like over here writing notes because I love everything you're saying right now so much. But what I find is that we 100% can feed the part of our brain or the part of ourselves that is like, this isn't going to work. I'm not capable, good enough, smart enough, educated enough, whatever that reason is that it's not enough. We can always go there. But if we choose not to, and we let our passion drive us, we let our love drive us, we let our,
Mm.
excitement drive us, I feel like that overrides a lot of the fear that we can have and a lot of that perfectionism. And the truth is, if you didn't say yes to that, if you didn't follow your passion, you wouldn't have been able to elevate our profession, profession of dental hygienists, but also the profession of women in dentistry, the profession of dental team members in dentistry. You wouldn't have been able to do that if you waited until you were perfect. And I think that's like really a message I want everyone to hear and really like digest for themselves. Like, where are you holding yourself back right now because you're waiting for yourself or something to be perfect? Because we never will be. Let it go. And
Oh, No.
believe that it's going to work out.
Right. You mentioned the women part. It's funny. I have a course about this, that was a big drive to this. That's interesting that you say it, because 2/3 of the cases of Alzheimer's disease are women. And at one point, and I don't remember the exact numbers, how many women are in our field. So you have your dentist, you have your hygienist, you have assistants, you have front support staff, you have lab people, you have sales people. We're over 1 million. And if not that I'm going to speak to 1 million people, but there is an obligation, I think, to a degree as a woman, that if I did have some information that's going to help not only all women, but people in my own circle to help reduce their risk, I don't know. I'd rather be known for something like that than some of the other things. So when you talk about women in dentistry, it's a lot of us. It'll be your coworker, let alone sisters, mothers, and all the rest. So yeah, it's funny that you talk about the women part of that, because I do have a course about that, and it's very important.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to make sure we share that in the show notes, so that if you're interested in this course, please click the link. I'm going to ask you for it afterwards, because it's so fascinating to me.
I'm really excited about that, because Colorado has picked it up in the fall. And it is one of my favorite, because I absolutely love it. Yeah. So anywho, yes.
I love that. Okay. Check out in the show notes, look at this course that Anne Rice has put on, and you'll get to learn more about Alzheimer's prevention for women specifically. Is that really what it is?
Yeah. It's about women's all over health, the disparity. I mean, there's so much that's been talked about. We haven't tested medicine on women in a period of time. There's so many disparities in our health versus men's health. And it gets into a lot of the health parts of, we are very different. Our brains are totally, like, you didn't know this if you happen to have a partner that's a man, our brains are very different, but they are actually made differently. And it's learning all of those things. It's important.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I think that's also why, something that I'm so passionate about is finding resources for women specifically when it comes to business, health, their own career success, their own levels of success, because truly, we need things that are different than men. And it's not good, bad, wrong, right? It's just different. And I think when we really acknowledge that difference, it allows us to be more empowered to look for the resources that actually support us. So I absolutely love that. Okay, I want to ask you this question. As you have been going through, when I was reading your bio, the first time I met you, I was like, holy smokes, you've done a lot, and it's exciting work, and it's in science, and it's, elevating our industry. And so I want to hear, what were some of the biggest kind of barriers that you came up against in your pathway and in your career, and how did you personally overcome them?
My own self, because listen, don't have a master's. I don't have DDS, DR. I don't have any of that. Whether that was the barrier or whether it was my own thinking that was the barrier. Now, I will say, when I first started talking about this, and I kind of joke about it, was I not the right vessel? When I presented some of this in dentistry all the way back in 2017, not a lot of people were on this bandwagon. And as I joke, was it the vessel? If I would have been perhaps a man with a doctor attached to it, would that have been accepted more? I don't know that I didn't really care. This is something that was important to me. I can't change. There are certain things I can't change. I'm not going back. But I always felt like I'm competing with a naysayer. So this is where perfection comes in. So I'm always having to learn more. Because I don't want to be, oh, she doesn't know anything. What is she talking about? So I felt like I always had to learn more science, get more educated. I think that it's important, if you have a question in the science world. I have a microbiologist friend now that's on speed dial, that if I have a question, and I'm not a microbiologist, I mean, and they themselves are so incredibly smart in that arena, we can't know everything. You have to put yourself out there to ask the questions and be humbled by it, but don't expect to be judged by it. When I'm in a group setting with Dr. Isaacson and a group anywhere from cardio, endocrine, genetics, the whole, all of these people, they do them good. I do me good. So you always have, you just can't think about it. You have value, you know what you're doing, you want to educate more. Science is so incredibly confusing and changing. I mean, that's the good part, is that anybody that's into science realizes, oh, what I knew yesterday is obsolete. Let's move on to something else. So I think everybody is in the same equal footing. It just takes me a lot longer to know some of it.
Yeah.
I have to do a lot of study, and I love doing it.
100%.
It was weekends, it was nights, which I don't know that that answered your question, but I think I circled around to it.
No, I love that. And I think, it's something that I think everyone should hear. And it's important to talk about how we can be our worst critics, our worst advocates almost sometimes. And when we talk about like, were you the vessel? You were, because you had the passion and you had the mission and you put the work in to learn these things and then distill it into a way that people could understand and then make use of it. And this is something that I talk with my little brother about all the time. Like, he's a neuroscientist and he will talk forever and ever and ever about like all of the things that are happening in the brain. And I'm like, Sean, we have to distill this. We have to make it so that the common person can understand something very complex and then figure out how to apply it to their lives. And so we need you. We need a lot of people to be able to take certain information they're passionate about, they're excited about, and then provide it in a way that people can understand and can apply into their life. And so I remember when I first started as a dental consultant, I was 30 years old and I was like, I'm a consultant. I don't have a business degree. I, have blonde hair and red lipstick. Like, are people going to take me seriously? I like to wear
Right.
floral, and there were so many like barriers in my own head. I was like, people aren't going to take me seriously. They're not going to listen. But the reality is I created a lot of impact in a lot of practices. And I actually helped a lot of younger women feel empowered to take on leadership roles. And if I didn't, at the very least, think like, I think I can do it, I wouldn't have done that. And same thing with you. Like, maybe we weren't like buckled into our like rocket ship, like, yep, ready to go, no problem. And, off to the races. Maybe it was like one step at a time, let's make this happen, but we did it. And I think that there's so many things we can learn about that process of like seeing the vision, having the passion, believing in yourself enough to say yes to these opportunities so that you can make the changes that are needed in the world.
I agree 100%. I think support makes a difference too. There's always going to be naysayers. I mean,
Mhm.
when I speak, when I write, there's the podcast, whatever it is. That's the nature of our world. But you
Mhm.
also have a support system of some kind, whether it's one or whether it's a whole posse, that you can bounce the ideas off of, and a real truth sayer. Yeah, I don't know. That's really not going to work. Or that joke is not, or no, I don't think you should put it out there. It's about risk and reward
Mhm.
with all of what we do. There's going to be there's going to be risk to get a reward. It's just how much you're willing to do that. When I wrote my first article, I joke about this. It was really based upon something that had happened to me uncomfortably on social media. And I got advice from somebody that said, just write it down. You're not getting over it. Just write it down. And I wrote it down, and then I let them read it. And they said, this is an article. And that's how it happened. Things don't just, there's all sorts of things that are happening right at the moment. You don't really realize it. You just have to take it, do something with it. And it
Mhm.
may not have ever been accepted. That one happened to be accepted in a magazine. But I don't know. It's so much of your personality, individual's personality, and trying to explore other things within your own comfortableness.
Mhm.
Things will be uncomfortable. I'm writing a paper and all that, but you also can't, just because you are this business leader and have a podcast and that's aspiring and and that's wonderful. That might not be right for me. I have
Mhm.
another area to go in. I think that we have to look at that also wholly, is
Yeah.
that you have to be you.
Mhm.
Science worked for me, your platform works for you, but in your own arena to explore that and make that bigger.
Yes.
I see a lot of speakers that the suggestion is to do this, be that, do that. No, you got to do you, be you, do that,
Mhm.
um, individually. And you won't be
Yes.
everybody's cup of tea.
No.
Okay. But you never would have been. I mean,
No.
that just, and dust yourself off and get a tribe together. Keep
Yeah.
going.
100%. And you and I were talking about this in terms of like, facing criticism or having people not support you. And, I've experienced that in my industry. And I think it was Vanessa Emerson who actually said it to me. Like she kind of like had this like stern talk with me at the very beginning of me deciding to be a speaker. And she's like, people are going to love you. People are going to hate you for no reason for both sides. Own it, own who you are, be who you are, and you'll find the people that want to work with you and want to learn from you. And those are the people that you talk to. And I think in the past, made the mistake of before I'm about to go live on Instagram or before I'm about to launch something. And it really is truly aligned with me. It's something that's very important to me. I think it's a lot of value. But then I think about the one person that
Yeah.
might criticize me, that one
Yeah.
person that like doesn't like what I'm going to say. And then I'm like, oh, should I? Yes, you should. And that
Right.
person that is going to criticize you, not kindly, not helpfully, is not somebody that we should ever think about when it comes to making big decisions for us. And it's hard. Like it really is hard sometimes
It is.
because we want to be liked. We want to be accepted, especially when we have the courage to put ourselves out there. But I think it takes knowing who you are, knowing the impact that you want to make, and then just being aligned with that and letting the rest fall away. There is enough people in the world that will like what you do or not like what you do, and that's okay.
It is. It's okay. I really admire some of the people in our industry right now that I do not like to be videoed. I don't, I could pick it all apart. And that the ones that are going out there on social media or doing all the different things, I really admire them. They, and I'm sure that it is a struggle for them at times. I mean, it can't be easy, but I admire, and I can think about the women primarily right now in our industry that are just doing it.
Mhm.
They're just doing it. And that's, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, that's what I work on. Matter of fact, some of my friends are going to hear this podcast and go, take your own advice every day, Anne,
Yeah.
where it needs to be perfect and it can't be that way. Just try something.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's just such a powerful story that you have where you took that leap and like you don't have to feel great when you're taking that opportunity. But as long as you take it and you take the chances before you're ready, then you will learn at least along the way. You might get an amazing opportunity, or at the very least, you will learn so much in that process.
And to accept the pivot, you and I talked about that a little bit earlier, is so you're in it. You're in the middle of whatever, and I'm working with this group to be able to accept or to challenge yourself. If another opportunity comes up, maybe that's where I'm going to go. It
Mhm.
doesn't, I've worked really hard. I'm here. I finally made it according to whomever. You know what? You can make it and then want to do something else.
Yeah.
Another
Yes.
opportunity, another chance to do something else. I think
Yes.
we really get kind of bogged down. Look at us with being a hygienist, sometimes in the operatory. It is a great profession. It served me in the operatory for over 30 years. Um, there are other opportunities that we can do. Even in when we're still in the operatory, there's still growth and potential for growth inside of working with patients. I mean, in my own head, I have thought about the mobile, and we have a friend that's in the industry that sees Alzheimer's patients in a mobile clinic going in, and I don't know, is that what the next thing will be for me?
Mhm.
I don't know. Um, there's so many chances, or or opportunities in our industry to do different things. There still needs to be more, that's
Mhm.
for sure. There still needs to be more, but
Yes. And I think that's something I want everyone to remember is that like human beings were designed, we're wired for expansion. We're wired and designed to continue growing and like learning and optimizing ourselves. And as we do that, we're learning more and more about ourselves. And I think that there's this permission that we don't give ourselves soon enough to be able to change or to be able to decide that something is more in alignment with who you are today, who is different than who you were 2 years ago
exactly. Yeah.
and not hold ourselves back from like our ability to expand or what are people going to think about me if I'm pivoting. Like it doesn't actually matter. The only thing that matters really in that moment is that it really is in alignment with you and you're not doing it because you should or because of some external pressure or because you feel like you're not good enough so you have to prove to the world that you're good enough. As long as it's in alignment with you and it's of service, you feel like it's going to make a difference, you feel excited about it, then you can trust it. You can trust those like nudges to expand or to pivot or to do something different.
Yep. And then you can also stop and make another change. I
Mhm.
just think that so many times I look about it with the writing in for dental hygienists. And I think how many dental hygienists are out in the operatory doing the good fight, the good work, and they come to me and say, "How did you start writing?" "On my computer in a Word document."
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
do it. There is no trick. There's so many things that knowledge that people have or passions that they have, um, that is yet to be explored. And it can help the rest of us. You're
Mhm.
not just helping yourself or building a brand or doing all that for yourself. You're helping us
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Um, and we're ready for it. I am ready for some serious changes in dentistry by the people that are out there.
Yes. Oh my gosh, 100%. And that's something I coach a lot of female entrepreneurs and speakers and business leaders on actually getting themselves out on video and sharing their message because it is like you look at yourself on video and you're like, wait a second, I didn't know my right eyebrow looks different than my left, or like, what happened there? I'm
Exactly.
not symmetrical. You have all these things that are like minute criticism that one, nobody else would ever notice. And then two, don't matter. If somebody was to criticize, like, Allison, I think your right eyebrow looks different than your left. Sorry, you're not a nice person. I don't want to talk to you. If that's what you're taking from this message, not my person. But if you can think about like shift the focus. The focus isn't on you giving this message. It's about the message that you're giving to the people that's going to serve
Mhm.
them. And again, like passion overrides fear. And I think service overrides fear. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this to help more women or more people not get Alzheimer's. I'm doing this so that more hygienists have the skill set and the mindset to serve a community to prevent Alzheimer's. Whoa, like, that's a huge
Right.
mission. And we can override a lot of our fear or, perfectionism because of that. So I love that you said that. And it comes in so many ways. And we're all here to be able to impact the industry. And I think for anybody that's listening, like, why not you that could impact the industry? That's something that I had to change in my mindset. Like, can it be me to why not me? I have good ideas. I have something to say. And so I think that's just such a critical thing to think about.
Yeah. I hope that there are the people out there, and I joke about this, that I should have gone to law school because I think that that is um, I need all the people in the industry that can actually and that are doing it, trying to change policies. And
Mhm.
that's a good fight. That is an
Mhm.
honorable, very difficult, I can imagine, struggle. But everybody is needed in every capacity in our industry. And to build each other up, for heaven's sakes, can we
Yeah.
just not
Oh my
um,
gosh.
just
Yes.
support each other?
It's like and I have been so grateful. I've been lifted up by women in dentistry, just literally pushed up like so hard. And I'm so
Beautiful.
grateful for that. And I've also had, very bizarre criticism or just unfair criticism. And something that I like to always think about, and this just really helps me, and it might help the listeners, it might help even you, and to think about this because when we get criticized, I always look at that person with so much empathy because if somebody has it in them to tear down another woman, to tear down another person and say things that are just unhelpful, unkind, that there has to be something inside of them that is pain. They're in pain. And so now when I have things like that happen, and I know they'll continue to happen, and unfortunately, I just look at a lot of empathy and I'm like, man, I can't imagine, feeling like I would have to go out of my way to tear another woman down. I can't imagine feeling that way.
That's just great advice in general, especially the empathy or trying to understand that even in the operatory, because we get attacked or, different things that are happening in that room that has not a thing. There's not one bearing to do with us.
No,
And that,
never.
everybody has a story. Everybody comes from whether they were a victim or they're in the middle of something going on. And that's just great advice to try to remember. You're right, which I need to
Mhm.
probably remember more.
It's a great one. It's just like, man, I feel bad that that's what you're spending your time thinking about right now, because I'm thinking about how do we change the world and how do we support each other and how do we solve the problems? And we all need to think that way in order to make change. So I think it's just helpful as we're getting started. And I want to honor you for everything that you've done in the industry to pave a path in a science-based world. Like, you are in rooms where they're not easy to get into the rooms that you're in. And you've done it on your own accord by taking risks, by taking chances, by doing your due diligence, by working hard. And I want to thank you for the work that you've done in our industry and for, inspiring other women to do same or similar and just being yourself. So
That's
I want
really
to thank you for
nice.
that.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I don't feel like I've done very much. I everybody's a regular person. You got to find what you love and then keep fighting the good fight. And even if it's not, I remember this from years ago, that whether I stayed at home for a period of time with my son and worked part time, just focus on whatever it is at that moment that you're doing. You make a difference in small ways all the time. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
from the stage. It doesn't have to be creating a new business. It doesn't have to, it's holding the door open for the little old lady that can't seem to make it in the door, or
Mhm.
sitting down with somebody that needs to have a conversation. There's lots of little different ways that, I need to focus. We all need to focus on that those
Mhm.
little things make a huge difference as well to people.
100%. And small, one of my favorite quotes is small daily tasks or small daily actions over time will yield massive results. If you did one thing a day to move the needle forward in your own life, in your health, or in your industry, over a year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, you're making massive differences. And so just focus on that one thing every single day. So I
Intention.
want to, yes, that intention. I want to wrap up this final question. And this question
Okay.
is sponsored by our dear friends Care Credit, who, when I pitched this podcast to them about empowering and supporting and elevating women in dentistry, they just gave me a hell yes. They're like, I'm here for it. We support you. So
Nice.
go and check out the link in my Instagram bio to learn a little bit more about how they can support your practice. But this question, I love this question so much. It's more of like a finish the sentence. So the statement that I want you to kind of finish is women are worthy of, and then you finish.
Everything. There isn't, it's not, you can't say or worthy of everything. There isn't anything that they're not worthy of.
Mhm.
I
I
mean,
love that.
you could make it smaller. We equal rights, equal health care, all the rest. We're worthy of absolutely everything good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that the women in this podcast listening to your story will know that they're worthy of taking chances and
Yep.
taking chances into their passion. And I love your message and I love your story. So how can our listeners find out more about you, follow you, connect with you, get you to speak at their next event? Where can they find you?
To my website was probably the easiest. It's ANNEORICE .com. Sorry. Everything is Ann O Rice, but that's probably the easiest way. And I answer whatever comes in there. And Yeah, I love to meet the people. That's the most fun part, is when you're out and about and you meet everybody that's fighting the good fight. It's lovely.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So if you are anyone in the industry that is just excited or interested or understanding more about Alzheimer's disease, you're a dental hygienist and you're thinking about, flexing outside of the op in any way, reach out to Anne, ask her some questions. She's just a powerhouse. And I just want to thank you for being on the Clearly Worthy podcast today, and go and check out her website, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks so much.
Bye.